the center of your life. It is everything you hear, everything you see, everything you feel. It is everything you are. How would you know if someone stole your mind?
Can I just say that that's probably one of the best teaser trailers ever that nobody really ever talks about? I mean, around this time, there was another Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that had a great teaser, and that was Terminator 2. But that teaser for Total Recall was actually pretty awesome. Like, I really like the way that Schwarzenegger is filmed from, like, the upper part of the camera, and he's just slowly but surely turning over to the looking down on the bottom of the screen. It's like, it's a great little trailer that I think a lot of people don't really talk about all that much, but it's pretty damn good, so... But other than that, this is, of course, based off of Philip K. Dick's short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, and it follows Schwarzenegger, who plays a construction worker who goes to a recall facility to put himself on a fantastical adventure on Mars, but then he finds out that the world he's been living in has been part of a secret operation by a shadow organization who's trying to prevent him from recovering memories of his past life, and the people that Douglas Quaid, Schwarzenegger's character, find out that it turns out that most of the people in his life don't even want to kill him, and he goes off on this great adventure throughout the course of the movie. Leads to a ton of great moments, ton of great visual moments, and you can see why this is one of the best movies that Arnold Schwarzenegger has ever made, one of the best movies Paul Verhoeven has ever made, because it definitely fits into both of these guys' repertoire when you realize their work that they've done prior to this and then after this. Of course, Paul Verhoeven also did RoboCop. There's a lot of visuals in this that are definitely reminiscent of RoboCop, and some of the visual effects of this movie are still amazing. This movie is over 30 years old, and it still holds up visually on many parts. There are lots of scenes in this movie you can watch and be like, that's actually pretty impressive the way they were able to do that. There are moments in here that are over the top and silly, but they're kind of hilarious, even nightmarishly hilarious. Not unlike what we saw 4 years later with Junior, but yeah, let's just pretend let's just pretend we don't even talk about that. I'm not even going to mention that when we get to that movie, because oh my God, Ivan Reitman, what were you thinking when you made that scene? But yeah, the movie Total Recall is a very good movie. It's maybe one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's best movies overall. It's a great movie that has this ambitious scope to it. It has this huge look to it that looks visually impressive, like almost to Blade Runner type levels. And a lot of talent is involved in this movie. Dan O'Bannon, who of course was one of the writers on Alien, he actually pitched this movie at Disney at one point, and this was before Disney had Touchstone Pictures as their like adult film outlet. This was like back when Disney wasn't the family friendly company it became known as at this time. And they were making experimental movies like The Black Hole and Something Wicked This Way Comes, those type of movies. Would have been interesting to see what they would have done if Disney had actually gone through with this, quite honestly. But it went around to various studios, various people put themselves behind it. But of course, this ended up with Carolco Pictures and TriStar Pictures, and the results speak for themselves. The movie was one of the big hits at the time. I mean, they expected this to be one of the most successful movies of the year, but I don't think they realized how big this really would have been. To put it this way, $25 million on your opening weekend in 1990 was considered the equivalent of opening to $100 million today. Like, that's considered a blockbuster success for that time period. And of course, Total Recall was in a whole lot lesser theaters than a big movie would be today. Like, a big movie today would be around like 4,200 theaters. I think this one was around like 2,000 theaters at this point. Like 2,000 was the peak at this time, and I don't think we ever got to like 3,000 theaters until maybe 95 or 96. I'd have to look that up, but we're not here to talk about those specifics. What about the movie itself? Because like I said, the movie is amazing. From a story perspective, it works incredibly well. The writing here is very good. It has a great balance of comedy and dramatic elements to it. There are moments where the movie takes a break. There are a lot of times when the movie is chaotic and in your face, and never to the point where it's like it's overflowing or overcluttered. But it's like it's a perfect blending of like fun, over the top humor, lots of good action, lots of good dramatic elements, and it helps to have a great cast like this. Schwarzenegger's really good in this. You've got a young Sharon Stone in this who plays his wife and the person that wants to kill him. Michael Ironside's always going to be great as the bad guy. You got Ronnie Cox in here, Rachel Ticotin. You also have Robert Costanzo, who you may know as Bullock from Batman the Animated Series, is in this movie. And yeah, like I said, the visuals are a lot of fun. You can tell that there's a good mix of like computer and practical effects that just work so well on both levels. They mesh together surprisingly well, and like I said, they still hold up, most of them, very well for a movie that's over 30 years old like this. I also like the movie's overall ideas of questioning reality and theorizing what your life could have been like, or what should be like. I like the way this movie manages to work on that as well. So yeah, Total Recall overall is a fantastic movie. I don't think I need to tell anybody to see it, because most of you have probably already seen it already, so there you go, that's Total Recall. Yeah, just ignore the new location, but,
You don't know what you do to me. Ah, want to kiss myself. God, and I got the feeling. Hey.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. It's been 7 long years. Look, I got 48 hours to bring this guy in. I'm history.
You want me to go out with you for another 48 hours?
Now look, Reggie, this time I promise you it's gonna be different. But Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte are back.
Let me tell you something. I ain't working for you. I don't like you, and I don't trust you.
Welcome back, Reg. And they're making up for lost time.
We got the same car, same clothes.
That's the way I like it. I get attached to things, Reggie. Another 48 hours.
Well, you're in trouble with the law this time. Good.
Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte.
I'm driving.
I was wanting a chauffeur, Reggie. Another 48 hours.
Roxanne, you don't have to put on a red light.
Yeah, let Eddie Murphy's bad singing define what this movie is, because holy crap, did they screw the pooch on this one big time. It's amazing when you really think about this movie and how, like, you wouldn't expect this movie to be a development hell type of a movie, but try being a development hell movie that was in so much development hell that it was literally the week of the movie's release that they finally put the movie together, and they just did, like, what were you thinking? Because, like, here's what happened with this movie. The original cut of this movie was 145 minutes long. Director Walter Hill actually made the cut. It was either him and the Paramount studio. Paramount wanted to cut it down to at least 2 hours. And then, the week before it was supposed to be released, Total Recall came out. It became a big hit, and Paramount got so worried that they actually cut 25 minutes out of the movie. So, they cut down a movie that was originally 145 minutes to 140 minutes to 95 minutes in 1 week before the movie was supposed to come out. Just, wow. How did you screw that up big time? And it got so bad that one of the original actors from 48 Hours, Frank McRae, who reprised his role in this movie, his scenes were cut entirely except for one shot where he was in the background. That's it. They cut it down to also make it a faster-paced action comedy, and that was not the original 48 Hours. It was just like, remember, this all happened a week before the movie was supposed to come out. They cut all the scenes out, all because Total Recall made so much money at the box office, and Paramount was so scared that this movie was not going to make any money that they cut almost a third of the movie out. It's just like, just wow, man. How did you screw this up? And it shows on screen. There's just so many plot holes, so many continuity errors, so many mistakes in this movie. It hurt to watch this movie the first time I saw it, because I saw it on when I first got it. We watched it again recently when the movie came out on Paramount's Presents Classics Collection on Blu-ray, and I forgot how bad this movie was. This is a mess of a movie. I mean, oh my god. Like, the stuff with Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy, it still works. It still that chemistry is still there, but it's very few and far between this time around because of everything going on behind the scenes. Like when you cut almost 50 minutes worth of material out of a movie a week before you're supposed to make the movie come out, it gets hard to really defend this movie, because it's just like where's the rest of that footage? Like, why don't you actually put that rest of that footage out there? And to this day, we still haven't seen that footage. Even on this newest Blu-ray release they did recently, it's not on that deep Blu-ray, and it's just like, why not include that on there? You've got all this footage there. You could have at least shown it to people, but it's just like, nope, it's just lost forever. And I mean, I guess it worked in the end because it did make more money than the first movie did, not by much, like $2 million more domestically than the $78 million that 48 Hours made, which let me just double check to make sure I got it right. Yeah, actually, it was more than that. It was it made I had the numbers here for a second. Give me 1 minute. Yeah, I was right before. It made $2 million more than the original film did. $78 million for the first one, $80 million for the second movie, and it was a box office disappointment because of how much money was put into it and how profits were minimized. And this was also the beginning of kind of the end of the long-time relationship between Murphy and Paramount Pictures, because Eddie Murphy had all of his movies at this point were released by Paramount Pictures. So this movie was kind of the start of the downfall of that, because he wouldn't make another movie with it. He'd still make a couple. He still made a Boomerang, and then he made Beverly Hills Cop 3 and Vampire in Brooklyn. But after that, there was a long period where he didn't make as many movies as he did with them in the beginning of his career. But you could tell that this movie led to the beginning of the end of that long-term relationship between Murphy and Paramount Pictures. And unfortunately, the cut of the movie that we have out there speaks for itself. It's a movie that's just like, it's a mess of a movie, man. It's just a movie that just doesn't work. And it's one of those things where it's just like, what could have been? Like, what could have been if you actually kept that stuff in there? Or even let people see what you were going to do. And it's just like, sadly, it's not there anymore. And it's just like, it's just another one of those what could have been moments. But, yeah, another 48 Hours. It has some moments that are still kind of good, but it definitely pales in comparison to the first movie, for sure. So, yeah, that's another 48 Hours. But let's go ahead and move on to the second movie, which came out a couple weeks ago, and that was Firebirds. See if you can guess what movie they were trying to copy here, because I really don't think you're going to get it. So let's take a look.
Objective in your lives to become masters of air-to-air combat tactics.
Okay, baby, let's do it.
That pilot's good.
You have a problem with women in the Army, Preston?
Not with all of them, sir.
Aren't you forgetting something?
You keep it.
Come on, show me what you got.
Gee, is this a quiz, sir?
Your whole life's a quiz, young man.
Wash you out if you can't cut it.
You clear on that? I got it!
It's like sex.
I need you to help me out.
Hardly anybody gets it perfect the first time.
We're pushing these guys a little too hard, sir.
He wants me out of here.
I think you could be one of the best. Time to rock and roll.
Just so you know, I will be kicking your rear today.
Good.
People, there's a hostile situation. We are on red alert. This is not a drill.
You think it's fine for me to be a pilot as long as there's nothing at stake?
People are gonna die down there.
We will confront the forces of evil and kill them deader in hell.
Let's get him in the air.
Stop that! I'm on my own!
Get the hell out of there, Orion. Quickly, do you have contact?
We are going in. Mayday, mayday.
Shoot him. Blast him.
Can you move?
Hey! Bullets on their hand. Flex them now. Put it on your shoulder. Quick, 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 quick. Shake up, back up, cock up, knee
I
up.
got him in my sight.
He's getting position. He's going done.
But I'm hearing a noise.
Wavy noise or solid
Or a
noise?
missile. Solid.
Lock him up. Kill him now. Shoot him in the air.
Yeah, you thought Days of Thunder was the big Top Gun ripoff of 1990. I mean, like I said, Top Gun much? I mean, good lord. Like, Disney, I expect better from you when you try to copy your competitors, but holy crap, this is just a straight-up ripoff of Top Gun from so many levels. I mean, good lord. I mean, you see it in the trailer there. It's just like, you replace Tom Cruise with Nicolas Cage, you replace Kelly McGillis with Sean Young, you replace Val Kilmer with Tommy Lee Jones, you replace many of the same elements from Top Gun, put it into this movie. The movie even had a different title, Wings of the Apache, but I guarantee you they changed the Firebirds to be a cooler title like Top Gun was. Firebirds, man. It's just like, sadly, this movie does not have the same wit, the same over-the-top fun, the same stunts and action sequences that made the original Top Gun stand out, especially not the same soundtrack that made Top Gun so memorable. I mean, like I said before, the soundtrack to Top Gun is much more memorable than the actual movie is. This movie doesn't even have that. It's just like, wow, I mean, just what a mess of a movie this is. Like, I mean, it's baffling. It's really baffling that Disney looked at this and said, yeah, this is going to be the next Top Gun. I mean, we know exactly what we're doing. We didn't even put it in the same weekend that Top Gun opened up in 4 years ago. We're ready for him. Yeah, let's do it. And then, no. Just no. It's just, I don't have anything more to say about this movie, quite honestly. It's just, it is exactly what it is. It's one of the worst Top Gun ripoffs you'll ever see. And there was a lot of Top Gun ripoffs back then, but this was definitely one of, if not the worst of the bunch. So yeah, that right there is Firebirds for you.
It's like he's reading my mind.
Tracy Battle's gone.
I'm taking this bum out of the headlines. I'm rubbing him out.
Oh, Tracy, watch out!
Take Tracy to me. I say we kill Tracy now.
You challenge me, we all go down.
Are you gonna arrest me?
I want to know who killed Lips Manless.
Not the bad, big boy, not the bad. I know, and I'm gonna miss you, but all's fair in love and business.
Whose side are you on?
Side I'm always on. Mine.
All right, what's the line out? This territory is my territory now. Everything he owns, I own.
Move in and take your positions. Okay, boys, let's go. And you, guilty of attempting to bribe an officer of the law.
She does some nifty undercover work. I think Tracy drives you crazy, doesn't he?
All right, that's enough. I want Tracy dead.
Tracy, let's go! Look,
You have just said goodbye to us.
aren't you gonna frisk me?
Stupid cop.
Tracy?
Warren Beatty is Dick Tracy.
Just like Batman, Dick Tracy was in production hell for a number of years, was in development for the longest time in the 1980s. The writers of this are the guys that wrote Top Gun, but this also had a number of different directors on it, just like Batman did. This one had Steven Spielberg at one point, John Landis was attached to direct it at one point, Walter Hill, Richard Benjamin, and then eventually they came down to Warren Beatty, who also stars in the film and also produces the film. And, you know, I gotta say, this movie doesn't get a lot of the same attention that Batman does, but I think this is a really good, well-made movie. I think this is a very good movie. Not quite up to Batman levels, but still, just there's so much about this movie to appreciate. The fact that it does feel like a 1930s comic book movie. And Warren Beatty, I think he did well enough as Dick Tracy. I think he did a pretty good job in this role. Madonna in particular was really good playing Breathless Mahoney. I thought she was very good in this. You also have, can't remember her name now, Glenn Headley playing Tess Trueheart. And I like the chemistry that her and Madonna have with Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy character. And even Charlie Korsmo playing the kid in this movie. You know, it's easy for kid characters and supporting characters in movies like this to be kind of annoying, just because they're supposed to be the second banana. Of course, the most obvious one was Short Round and Indiana Jones, but no, Charlie Korsmo was actually a pretty good kid actor back in the day. He was also in Hook, too, and he was also in Can't Hardly Wait, but I think in this movie he did a pretty good job playing off of Warren Beatty. And talk about a great cast this movie had, because you have Al Pacino playing Big Boy Caprice. I think he was fantastic in this movie. Over the top, very, very comic booky, very pulpy, very over the top, and he's a ton of fun to watch in this movie. And it surprised me that he actually got an Academy Award nomination for this, which is surprising, especially when you consider that he didn't get one for Godfather Part 3, I believe. I don't think he got one for Godfather Part 3, but this is the one that he gets the nomination for. And I liked him in Godfather 3, but I'm actually kind of surprised he got the nomination here. You also have Dick Van Dyke in this, Michael J. Pollard, Charles Durning, Kathy Bates, Seymour Cassell. The villains in the movie, Dustin Hoffman is Mumbles, William Forsythe as Flat Top, Edo Ross, James Tolkien, Mandy Patinkin, Paul Sorvino, Chuck Hicks, James Caan, Catherine O'Hara. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal cast in here. The visuals in this movie are still very impressive. Like, the settings look incredible. Like, even for a movie that's over 30 years old, it looks something. It's supposed to look like something straight out of the comic books. It's a very matte painting type of setting in the background. You can tell it's a green screen, but it's a very well done green screen. I think they did a phenomenal job with this movie. Danny Elfman's score is fantastic. The action sequences are very well done. It's a fun movie. It's a well-made movie. I had a lot of fun watching this movie the first time about a decade ago. It still holds up every time I watch it. It's a very good, well-made movie. It unfortunately doesn't get the attention I think it deserves, but I don't think it deserves the same caliber that something like Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, these movies that kind of revolutionized the comic book movie genre and would give us more movies like this in the years to come. But unfortunately, it didn't do quite as well as Batman did. I think it just barely crossed the $100 million mark domestically, and Disney was kind of expecting a lot more from this, but it's unfortunate, because I really would have liked to see what Warren Beatty would have done with a sequel to this. But I mean, for a one-shot movie, this is still a pretty good movie that still holds up a lot to this very day. So if you haven't seen Dick Tracy, I definitely say check it out. I think it's definitely well worth your time. So we had the comic book movie, and now we have, I want to say, the comedy that came out the same week to counter-program the comic book movie, but this is also 1 year ago we had Ghostbusters 2, and here we have the other sci-fi horror comedy of the 80s with a sequel, and that is Gremlins 2, The New Batch.
Rules.
Oh, the rules.
Remember the first one?
1, you can't get them wet.
But you didn't listen.
2,
Don't let them get exposed to bright light, especially sunlight.
We made it very clear.
And the third one is don't let them,
3.
But you got confused.
All right, let's go over everything again, all right?
We warned you.
You keeping some kind of pet in there?
Put that in minute. I'm so sorry. Gremlin, you okay?
How's your hand?
Now, they're back. Wilder.
Well, it's rather brutal here. We're advising our clients to put everything they've got into canned food and shotguns.
Tougher. And scarier.
If these things get out of the building, then that is it for New York.
We just got some albums.
They say this is the city that never sleeps. Now, it has a reason. Gremlins 2, the new batch.
Check it out one time, won't you?
So kind of like Ghostbusters 2, Gremlins 2, The New Batch doesn't get the same amount of respect that the original movie does. But in a way, I actually have to give them credit for the stuff that they were able to do here, because they obviously, Joe Dante obviously looked at this and said, okay, let's go for something a little more cartoonish. Let's make it not as dark as the original film. Let's have slapstick, over the top humor with it, and let's just have fun with it. And I think that what we get on screen here is a very fun movie. It's not on the same level as the first movie. That's kind of to be expected, but you're still getting a lot of great stuff in this movie. You've got great practical effects here. The Gremlins are still fun to watch. Zach Gilligan and Phoebe Cates work off each other very well. John Glover's always going to be a ton of fun to watch. You've got a great cast in here with a lot of great cameos. Robert Picardo, Christopher Lee, Hulk Hogan has a cameo in this that's very good. You also have Julia Sweeney, Henry Gibson, Leonard Maltin, the Stanton brothers, who would be in Terminator 2 later on the next year. Kathleen Freeman. Just a phenomenal cast all around, even from the voice actors. Howie Mandel is back as Gizmo. Tony Randall as the Brain Gremlin is a ton of fun. Frank Walker's in this. I mean, they even got Bugs Daffy, and Porky in this for the opening and the end credits too. It's interesting because they had Chuck Jones come out of retirement to work on this animation, which I don't know honestly, it really doesn't play to the story, obviously, but it's interesting to have them in there. I guess they were trying to see if Looney Tunes could make it could still work in the 1990s in movie form. And, well, we did get a couple of shorts, and then we had Space Jam in the mid-90s, but, I mean, I thought it was fun. It was fun to watch. Like, it's most of this movie. It's goofy fun. It knows it's playing over the top all around. It even makes fun of itself. It knows what kind of a movie it is. It knows how incredibly silly and ridiculous it's going to be. And it's just like, you know what? Kudos to you guys. I mean, you did a great job of just going straight up over the top and just making it work as well as it did. I mean, I think this movie is very underrated. It's still it's a very funny movie. Great practical effects, great action, great comedy, great suspense, great over-the-top humor. It's just a good, fun, campy movie, and you wouldn't expect anything less from Joe Dante. Yeah. Gremlins 2: The New Batch is a fantastic movie. Need I say more?
About a year ago, we gave this city Robocop.
Ready for duty, partner?
Nothing I'd rather do. I think he's worked out pretty well. Have a seat. This is a bust. But things have become a little rougher out there.
This unit needs millions of dollars in parts. You see, Robocop's off warranty.
He's one of mine. And I want him back on his feet.
I believe that Murphy's case was unusual, but not unique. We can find someone else. Someone to whom the prospect might even be desirable.
And now, we need a law enforcement unit capable of meeting the enemy on his own ground.
She's screaming psychotic, sir.
Well, we aren't planning to build a toy. I'm carrying enough firepower to get the job done.
I got good news for you. You're going to have a chance for immortality.
With great pleasure, I give you RoboCop 2. Yes. Things will be a lot quieter with this boy around.
That thing is a killer!
Jane! Let's step outside.
You're obsolete!
Take it over, creep.
Hey, want to see the one scene that makes this movie almost redeemable?
Can't shoot a kid, can you, fucker?
Yeah, you get to hear Littlefoot say the F word to RoboCop. I mean, that actor is Gabriel Damon, who played Littlefoot in the original Land Before Time. He was also Nemo in Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland. But yeah, other than that, this movie's complete garbage. I mean, I just can't believe what a major step down this was compared to the first movie. I mean, you have Peter Weller back, you have Nancy Allen back, you have most of the people back from the first movie, and this is the film you come up with? I mean, it's basically, let's just take the first movie and make it even stupider, because the first movie, the RoboCop in question is a cop who gets severely injured by Kurtwood Smith, a bad guy, and they turn him into a robotic cop. So how do they combat the crime that's rising in this movie? Just get a drug dealer, just get a bad guy to be the new RoboCop, because why not? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? And wait, everything could go wrong, because we wouldn't have a movie, and this could work if the script was better written, but it's a Frank Miller script, man. I mean, when Frank Miller writes a movie, most of the time it's not very good. This is the same guy that wrote The Spirit. This is the same guy that did the third RoboCop movie. They actually brought him back for the third movie. Yeah, he's done some good stuff too, like the Sin City movies, 300. But he's not the best writer overall. Like, especially in his later years. If you've read All-Star Batman and Robin or Holy Terror, those terrible comics he was putting out in the last couple of years, guy has really stepped down in quality. I mean, praise him for what he did before with The Dark Knight Returns and what he did with Watchmen. Actually, not Watchmen, because that completely came out of nowhere. I thought for some reason he was involved with Watchmen, but he had nothing to do with that. So forget what I said about Watchmen. Sorry, Alan Moore, but but you get the point. Frank Miller has not had the best track record, and as a scriptwriter, he is very 50-50, and this is not one of his better scripts he's written. And they have Irvin Kershner, who did The Empire Strikes Back. I feel like they did that because Empire Strikes Back was such a better movie than the first Star Wars movie. Orion Pictures pretty much probably looked at him and said he could make this movie so much better even with a script as bad as this, but nope, can't do that. I mean, at times the visuals can still look very, very campy and fun like the first movie did, but the writing in this movie is just terrible. Just the way that the movie just plays on and on, it doesn't really give you anything in return afterward. And like, nothing really important or necessary happens in this movie that works as well as what the first movie was trying to do. I mean, this series really took a downward turn. Most people would think that this would be the movie that would be kind of a wake-up call for the third one, but wait till we get to the third one, because holy crap, they really should have bet on that one, just to say. But so yeah, RoboCop 2, it's not a very good movie. It's definitely a major step down from the first RoboCop movie. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie that came up this weekend, and that was Betsy's Wedding.
It was a dream come true.
Jake and I are getting married.
Fantastic.
And a parent's nightmare.
We can't pay for this.
It started as a small wedding.
Maybe just a few friends and family in the living room or something.
That became a big wedding.
We got all these people. Yeah, they've got people, we've got people, and I know people who know people.
That turned into...
Wedding that ain't New York.
It kept escalating like the arms race.
Betsy's Wedding.
I'm gonna throw up all over the bridesmaids.
Rated R.
Yet another disappointment for this weekend. I mean, Alan Alda usually, when he writes and directs a movie, it's usually pretty good. I mean, he doesn't usually make bad directorial efforts. He may make a bad acting movie here and there, but you can always tell that he's putting his all into whatever movie he puts himself into. And this is one of those movies where I think his intentions were in the right place, but it just didn't pan out as well as I think they wanted it to. Even with a great cast that includes people like Madeline Kahn, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, Joe Pesci, Anthony LaPaglia, Catherine O'Hara, Burt Young, Joey Bishop, Dylan Walsh. This is a great cast, but the writing in here is just not very good. I mean, it's a movie that I feel like could have been a whole lot better than what they gave us, but it just doesn't work. And, you know, for Joe Pesci to be in this movie, and he was asked about the film later on, and he didn't even want to discuss it. Usually you get that with movies where, more like action movies or something that had a big budget or something like that. You don't usually hear it with movies like this unless they're really bad. Like, you know, it's like, you know, like, unless, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's just kind of like, if Joe Pesci is saying that he doesn't want to discuss this movie, then something really went wrong here. I mean, it just doesn't work. It's a comedy that it could just be formulaic, and maybe it could have worked, but other than that, though, the script writing is just not that good. And supposedly this movie was based on the marriage of Alan's youngest daughter, and it just looks like it just ends up becoming like a third string Father of the Bride movie, honestly. I expect a lot better because Alan Alda, like I said, usually when he directs a movie, it's usually a lot better than this, but yeah, this movie didn't work very well. Betsy's Wedding came and went. Great cast, great director, great star. Just didn't work out in the end overall. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie. It's May Fools.
Madame Vieuzac a donc respecté l'ordre naturel de la succession.
An unexpected death in the family brings all of the relatives together.
Il n'aimait pas. M'obligeait à me laver les mains 4 fois par jour.
Moi, les communistes, je les emmerde.
Quand l'enterrement? Bonne. Tout le monde est là.
Papa m'a dit de vous dire que pour un enterrement, c'est pas possible aujourd'hui.
Pourquoi?
Qu'ils sont pas malades. Au revoir.
May Fools.
From Louis Malle, the director of Atlantic City, and My Dinner with Andre, we have May Fools, which I haven't seen before, but you know, Louis Malle has been a pretty decent director in most of his career. Like, he also would later do Damage, which was a pretty good movie, and Vanya on 42nd Street, which is a pretty good movie. I've never seen this one before. I mean, I like a lot of his movies, so if what I'm seeing here is very much similar to what I've seen from like stuff like My Dinner with Andre or Atlantic City, we might have something good here. I think this might be a movie that could be pretty good, but like I said, I haven't seen it before. Can't really discuss it all that much, but looks promising enough. Maybe I'll check it out one day.
Where I come from, it doesn't matter which end of the car goes around the corner first.
Hold on a minute, don't you think we ought to talk?
What, about how I'm gonna run? Sure.
Well, how you manage to live as long as you have.
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
You run good.
Thank you.
I want to see how you do in the crowd.
We can fix it right here. Now what's it gonna be?
Tell me what you love about racing so much.
Speed.
Come up here and do it. I'll take you to race.
I can't. I'm a doctor. I'm cold.
I don't want you to hold a bad opinion of Cole. He needs reassurance from you that he's okay. After all, you're his doctor.
How long before you find out if you're really good? Are you really lucky?
Now you're scared. You're scared.
He doesn't believe you can drive anymore.
I'll take your word for what a car can do. But I'm not taking anybody's word for what I can do, because nobody knows.
You get back in that car and you'll die.
AKA Top Gun on Wheels, and I honestly could say a lot about this movie, that so many similarities to Top Gun and all that, but I'll give it this, it's at least a better Top Gun ripoff than the other Top Gun ripoff we got in 1990, and that was Firebirds. But at the same time, yeah, this movie really is not all that good. I mean, yeah, it is basically Top Gun on wheels. It's like so many of the action sequences, so many of the characters, so much of the script, so much of the dialogue, so much of everything that happens in this movie. It really is. It's essentially that Top Gun taking place in NASCAR instead of being like taking place in the military and using fighter jets and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, there's a lot of great talent here. Tony Scott's a great action director. Robert Towne wrote this. He also wrote Chinatown. Tom Cruise took part in the script for this. You have the same the same duo that did Top Gun, Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer. A great cast that includes Cruise, Duvall, Randy Quaid, Nicole Kidman, Carrie Elways, Michael Rooker, John C. Reilly. But yeah, the movie itself just doesn't have that same spark, you know. When it's trying to be something. They should have gone for something different. but it just goes to so many similar levels that Top Gun did that, quite honestly, if I had not seen Firebirds, I would say this is straight up one of the worst Top Gun ripoffs of all time, but I actually have come to kind of give this movie a little more credit after watching Firebirds. But, because at least they're doing something slightly different here. Instead of it taking place with fighter jets, it's now race cars and NASCAR and all that. But it still doesn't make it a good movie. I mean, the action sequences might still look nice nowadays, and maybe there's some decent stuff here. I mean, I'll give him this. Tom Cruise is not terrible in this movie. He is giving it his all. He is trying his best to work with a really lackluster script here. You kind of expect better from Robert Towne, even though this was kind of where his career was kind of taking a downfall, and most of the scripts he was putting in and wasn't working out as well as they did when he was making films like Chinatown and all that. But, yeah, honestly, I really don't have any more to say about this movie. It's a major step down to Days of Thunder, at least with I should say a major step down from Top Gun. A major step down from Top Gun. I am not gonna re-edit all that but yeah, it's a major step down from Top Gun for Tony Scott and Tom Cruise. It's just too much similar to Top Gun that there really is no fun to it. At least Top Gun, as flawed of a movie as it is, a heavily flawed movie, there's still stuff in there that still holds up with the test of time. Nothing in this movie holds up at all. I mean, nothing really holds up with this movie at all. It just doesn't work. It's just a movie that does not work as well as I think they wanted it to. And I just didn't see the appeal. I just didn't see why it needed to exist. Maybe if it had a better script, maybe if it was just straight up copying everything from Top Gun, you could have had something here. But overall, it's just a mediocre movie. It's just like, it's a mediocre movie that has very few elements that kind of make it somewhat watchable, but it really is one of the worst movies of the year, quite honestly. It's a movie that I don't think worked well at all. It's a movie that's instantly forgettable. I don't see the appeal of the lasting power of it, unlike Top Gun, but yeah, that's my thoughts on Days of Thunder. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and at least for Days of Thunder, I can say it was a whole lot better than the next movie, Bill Cosby and Ghost Dad.
No ghost had ever been treated so badly. Okay, honey bun, that's enough for tonight.
Daddy.
Elliot Hopper never has enough time for his kids.
Don't wait up for me.
I never do.
But today is an unusually hectic day.
Do you accept the Lord Satan as a supreme being?
I've been meaning to, but I've just been so busy I haven't had a chance to get around to it.
In fact,
I've got $76. All you have to do is stop the cab.
it's his last.
Never come to work with that attitude.
Now,
What's wrong with Daddy? Excellent trick. I am. You're a duck. A big sissy. A host. A host. A ghost? It's a ghost!
Ghost Dad. He's got a family to raise.
Diane, don't make me walk through this door.
Do you know how weird that's going to make me look? Oh, there goes Diane. You know, Casper's daughter.
A romance to keep alive.
I can't.
Oh.
Oh, no, I don't mean that. I can't. Of course I would.
And a secret to keep.
I know that you're an alien. I want $50,000 or I go to the newspaper.
You try to threaten me?
Bill Cosby. As you've never seen him before. Invisible.
Daddy, can I take you to show and tell?
Ghost Dad.
I don't know what Bill Cosby was thinking when The Cosby Show was on the air, because, I mean, when The Cosby Show was on TV, I don't know what happened. Like, every movie that he picked, these leading roles he picked, I don't know what he was looking at with the scripts and all that, because there was this movie and then there was Leonard Part 6, and it's just like like, I don't know how a guy of his comedic talents at the peak of his career with The Cosby Show, which was one of the biggest hits on television at this time, could pick bad script after bad script. It's just like, what are you doing, man? I mean, you're tarnishing your legacy with these movies, and yeah, you're just tarnishing your legacy and everything that people liked about you at that time. Of course, now his legacy is tarnished for other reasons, but, I mean, listen, you gotta give the guy his proper credits. I still like what Bill Cosby did in the past. I still like Fat Album of the Cosby Kids. I still like The Cosby Show. I still like some of his older movies, some of his older stand-up. I mean, there is still a lot to like about his older stuff. I mean, hate him for what he did, because what he did was inexcusable, but I mean, he was still funny back in the day. I mean, just in my personal opinion. I know a lot of people still don't like Cosby after what he did, but I agree with you that what he did was wrong, but don't neglect the past stuff that he did that made him one of the biggest stars at the time. Except for movies like this and Leonard Part 6, which is just like, this movie baffles me even more than Leonard Part 6, because Leonard Part 6 was a movie that it didn't really feel like they had the right idea of what they wanted to do with that movie, and it's just like, so much so that Cosby himself wanted to denounce the movie on talk shows at the time of that film's release. This movie's inexcusable for being as bad as it is. You've got Sidney Poitier, one of the most well-known black actors and directors of his time, won an Oscar for, I can't remember what he won an Oscar for. It was Lilies on the Field. I thought for a second it was either Guess Who's Coming to Dinner or In the Heat of the Night, but completely different movie that I was thinking of. It was Lilies of the Field, so that's the one he won the Oscar for. But even for a guy like Sidney Poitier, you would think a guy like him would know to pick better scripts than this. You also have Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson, who had just done Tremors, which is a great cult sci-fi comedy. You've got Henry Mancini doing the music for this. Henry Mancini, he did the Pink Panther, for God's sakes. What is he doing here? And it's just like, the whole movie is just a mess. Like, there's so much here that probably could have worked with a better script. I mean, I read that John Badham was actually going to direct a version of this with Steve Martin in the Bill Cosby role, which, you know, Steve Martin can be very funny, and John Badham can be a good director, so maybe that could have worked. But then again, you have the talent here: Sidney Poitier, Henry Mancini, Bill Cosby, and this is the end result. It's a movie that really just makes no sense whatsoever. Like, it'd be easy to say that Bill Cosby is a ghost now. Like, he's dead. Like, he's never coming back. But nope, not in this case. He's apparently like, he's still. It's weird. Like, he's a ghost, but he could still be seen by his kids, but they can't hear him. And then it just gets so confusing trying to think about what this plot is. So he's not really dead. It turns out that his spirit jumped out of his body in fright, and so because of this, so how is his spirit still moving around and his body is not? Is it just like, it's so confusing? And then the daughter gets killed, and then it's the same thing in a bizarre way too, because the older daughter trips on a pair of skates from the little sister, and she falls on the steps. She's seriously injured, and she ends up in the same situation. And she's just like, you know what? Screw it. I want to go run around as a ghost too. Screw my body. And then it's literally a non-conflict 5 minutes after that happens. It's just everything in this movie is so clustered, so screwed up, makes no sense whatsoever. It's downright insane how weird this movie is, and even right down to some of the other things that happen in this movie. You have Arnold Stang, the voice of Top Cat, in here, and he's only in here to be the Don Knotts type of role, where he's like doing the slapstick comedy, and even though the slapstick comedy in here is not funny whatsoever, and it's just like, it's like that throughout the movie. There's just so many moments in here that just don't work. This is supposed to be a PG-rated family comedy, and you have people talking about, and you have there's one scene where the boyfriend of the older daughter calls Bill Cosby's house, and he's just like, put the bitch on. I mean, just... Do you realize how stupid this is? This whole movie is so stupid. And the fact that so many talented people were involved in the making of this movie just... It's baffling. It's baffling how this movie came to be. And how they screwed it up so badly. It's a mess of a movie. Terrible movie. Ghost Dad. It's one of the worst comedies ever made. I mean, it's just... It's a terrible movie. I got nothing else to say about it. If you haven't seen it, be lucky. Be lucky that you haven't seen this movie, because it's really, really bad. So, Ghost Dad. Ghost Dad.